Yeah, it's something that I probably before this deal, didn't really think about that much. Yeah, to have my grandfather, Graham, grandpa, Jeff, other side of the family, both race sprint cars. Mum raced sprint cars, Dad raced sprint cars. Auntie Dee raced Formula 500, which is where I came from, and her husband, Uncle Darren, he races sprint cars at the top level. Uncle Neil, Uncle Clint. So there's a lot of, when you think about it, I don't think about it that much, but there is a lot behind it. And yeah, I sort of going out there, you sort of hope that you can keep that going forward and keep the results going well. But yeah, it's definitely an awesome thing to have that sort of history behind this racing deal, and yeah, looking forward to keeping it going forward. I think my granddad Graham, he bought me my first go-kart at the age of 6, and probably since then it's just been second nature really. I've sort of come to learn how to, with Dad and his back injury and whatnot, I've sort of learned how to do a bit of stuff sort of coming up. I learned a lot about cars, and you sort of learn that you got to appreciate the car and what goes into it to be able to sort of succeed well in this sport. So yeah, so you go from karts at the age of 6, I got into junior formulas at about 13 or 12 or somewhere around there, and then up into the senior formulas, and we've had a good past couple of years in the sport, and yeah, so look, as I said, look forward to keeping it rolling and hopefully going well, just like we did in the formulas and everything else in this.
Scotty had Brodie doing karts. My girls had both race karts. I had quite a bit of kart gear. There was a little bit of an overlap, I think, where Brodie was racing in what was called the midgets and stuff back then, and my girls were in juniors, which was good, and so I just kept an eye on that. And Scotty's got a knack of meeting the right people and talking to the right people, and because he's a likeable fella. And Heidi, you know, they've got all charisma, and a kid that's racing okay, they get the right information, and he's shining in go-karts.
Yeah, sort of learnt a lot through that because of the whole open wheel. A lot of it coincides with each other as you go up the ranks, but with the formula as well, sort of you just, as I said, with open wheel, the car reacts in a sort of way that it's very similar amongst it all. That's why probably one of the best stepping stones you can go to get in one of these things is karts and formulas, I'd say. As I said, yeah, getting out of the car, especially new experiences in a different type of race car for the first couple of times, the sort of passion sort of gets reignited in a way, sort of thing, and you're learning more and more, and you can take that into other things. So yeah, it's definitely, I definitely know that that's why I'm still in it, is because of the passion I had back then. So we're still there now, we're still kicking, so yeah, it's pretty cool. Probably just the precision you need in formulas really, because it's that you got so many guys at the top of their game in that class, and the only thing that's keeping you from being mid-pack to front of the pack is precision in setup and precision in your driving. So you got to be able to read the track with setup wise and driving wise to know where to put the car so you can actually drive forward and pass the cars, because a lot of the time they're doing the exact same thing, so you got to pull something out of the bag that's different. So yeah, I'd say the precision of it, I want to try sort of going forward, put that into this sprint car, because you've got a lot more power there. You can get away with a bit more, but I think definitely it's still important to be smooth, give good feedback to the crew chief and Dad and Lee and everyone, so that they can give me a good car under me, and yeah, just go out there and convert. But yeah, I'd definitely say that there's heaps that you can take from it, especially as well being going back to the open wheel thing, just the way the car reacts and all. It's definitely gives me a good stride for this. So,
you know, he's done 10 years in a Formula 500, from juniors to seniors, and I guess Brodie came out and did a practice session sometime in the last couple of years, and had a burn in Wes Jenkins' car, and he went real good.
Yeah, it's sort of, I don't know, always in karts, in formulas, the biggest thing I had with me is I want to be running somewhere where everybody else isn't, because you got to try something to get around them. Like, that's a big thing in karts, because another thing I had an issue with in karts as well, sometimes I didn't have the straight out speed, like couldn't qualify well, but I could find myself getting from back in the middle of the pack to a point where I can actually battle forward, and then I'm into a position from just shoving it in a place that it's sort of people don't really want to put it, sort of thing. But it's yeah, so that's what I sort of try to, I think in karts, whether it came from just the experience and heaps of laps under it, I wanted to put that into formulas and just, you take on every opportunity that you can from that very first sort of drop of the green. So, but in terms of sort of time where we sort of got it sorted, I'd definitely say late last year. We got a new car, new package in the formulas. We had a bit of a midlife sort of mid-racing career crisis. We stuck our car in the wall that we've been running for 2 years, totaled that and blew all of our motors. So we sort of got to a stage where we were like, we can either sort of, it was almost as though we can either give it away or we can go where we know works and just go from there and see what we can do with equivalent equipment. And we did that. We took the car down south. So we had a couple of issues straight up, but coming back home, coming back from Victoria, we got a heap of podium finishes. Came back up to Brisbane, another heap of podium finishes, and then even got a win. So win against Australia's best, like 3 of Australia's best that were there. So that was definitely a cool feeling. So yeah, I'd say last year, just the last little bit leading up to this opportunity, I'd say is when we really picked it up and really sort of found our stride in the whole scheme of things, I'd say.
I've had a good relationship with Brodie's dad, Scott. And Scotty drove one of my cars through an opportunity given him by a good friend of his who believed in him back in 1994. I found myself with 2 race cars and couldn't make up my mind which one I wanted to race, so I had to make a decision. Once a fellow named Gary Vane approached me and said, I'd like to rent one of your cars for Scotty. And I was never a car owner, I was a car driver, I'm just a sprint car racer. And I thought about it, and I certainly didn't do it for the money. There wasn't a big fee, I don't know, I just thought, you know, could be a bit of fun. Scott and I had a 2-car team and I had the 50 car and he had the 51 car. It's always in the back of your mind, would I consider have somebody else drive my car? Once again, never considered myself a team owner, just a driver. But saying that, people say, oh, you know, Brodie Davis, and there's this one and there's that one and Brodie Davis. And I thought, you know what, Brodie's going to get a drive. He's a talent. Somebody's going to offer him a drive. So just chatting to Scotty one day, I said, look, I've got a perfectly good package sitting here. I'd love to see Brodie have a burn in it, see if he likes it, see if we can make something happen.
Yeah, well, it sort of started early off with sort of just chats with Lee and Dad and sort of the whole situation. For sure, the initial news to be sort of given that opportunity, I was pretty over the moon. I think I was studying for an exam or something, and I had to sort of take the arvo off from studying and sort of reassess and get the excitement up, and it was the thrill sort of, as a kid, this is sort of what you want. You want to be able to be given the opportunity. You work all hard through your career in this sort of classes like formulas and karts and whatnot to be given something like this. So I think the thrill definitely is right there. And every time it sort of coincides straight into, every time you get in the car, it sort of reignites everything that you've worked towards to get to that point. And yeah, I'd definitely say that, yeah, it's excitement. It's hard to explain, but I definitely say it's definitely there.
Brodie and Scotty got together, had a chat. First time I spoke to Brodie, I could see a smile on his face. Scotty and I, the more we talked about it, the more we liked it, and we made it happen.
We were struggling before that point, but to come back from a really strong run, I think, yeah, Dad had talks with Lee, and then I sort of called me up and I just said, hey mate, I think you got an opportunity here to sort of go up into the sprint cars, and it sort of, Lee just explained, you're sort of looking for someone to put in the car with business sides and everything. And I was absolutely stoked. Can't explain how honoured I am to sort of be given that opportunity and thank him enough. But yeah, we just had to chat over it about obviously the situation with me being in Brisbane, the car being up here. Luckily enough, we were able to get a good generosity, massive generosity from James Matthews and get it laid flooring. Yeah, well, I'd say because we had that run those runs in between at Mareeba, Mareeba's a real wide open track where you got to commit to the corner to be able to run it in hard and run it in fast sort of thing. So coming from that point, I definitely had the confidence in the car that we could sort of commit to just turning in the Cairns with the big wide open corner. So we pretty much just sort of committed to in qualifying. I was just like, had to decide we're gonna hold it on here, and we'll just got to find the line to sort of make sure that we hold the throttle down and the fastest way around sort of thing. So I was, I think with the last group out, the first two, Walshy and Wes and Wes all put down some pretty quick times, Kingy as well. And so yeah, so I just went out and I had to, as I said, had to commit and put the foot down and went down for a few laps, and yeah, came down 4 laps later, and Dad just shouted over the radio, says, you got P1, there's 12.5 or something like that. So, and then we went back and looked over the times, and the consistency, which is a massive thing, was there as well. I think all of our times were within 2/10 of each other or something, which was pretty awesome. So from that point on, you got confidence in the night. It's a whole different mood. You're not battling, like compared to the other nights, you're not battling forward, you haven't had any issues. You start at the top and you just have to stay there sort of thing. So yeah, went out for the first heat, another smooth sailing. I think we put a sort of straight length or something in to get a pretty decent lead. In the second heat, it was a tricky track actually that night because there was a bit of a rail in the mid track you sort of had to avoid. I think in that second heat I hooked it once or twice, and I think, yeah, dropped back a position or two, so there was a bit of improvement we could have had there. And then, yeah, so from that we're battling for first in the dash and put it on pole. And the feature, we sort of got the good start and just didn't really look back from there, really.
That whole night went like clockwork. Brodie made one mistake that night, and he knows exactly what lap he did it on. And we all know as well. And but he learned from that. But he didn't think that he was doing anything special. He's just driving the car and won it by half a lap. The only thing, as an owner, only thing I was hoping for was I hope nothing goes wrong on the last lap. Hope that earth wire's stuck. I like to think that I can be a bit of a mentor for him in, you know, with my style that worked pretty good at a lot of places. And he there's been a couple of things, and I've said something and he's just gone out and done exactly what I said, and I just go, oh, it's perfect, you know. And I judge people sometimes just on a couple of corners in Cairns even, the way that they enter the corner. And Brodie is just bang on every time.
Yeah, well that's the big thing as well with open wheels and having the wing on top of you and everything. It's that for the fastest way around to have the most grip and everything, you got to be sending it into the corner to get that wing really holding you down. And you sort of become not really aware of, like compared to a Formula, there's a lot more weight behind the whole car. So if one little slip up, the consequences are massive compared to a Formula where you can sort of bring it back down sort of thing. So the biggest thing is just staying committed, because the fastest way around and the it's hard to explain, but the fastest and the most conservative, so you're not going to risk in a crash or anything, is just being committed through the corner and using that wing to your advantage with all the grip sort of thing. So, but yeah, so I've definitely noticed with the Formula, I think as well, Mariba, coming into a corner, if you don't get it right, it will just want to take you up to the track. So there's definitely a lot sort of learning to harness that power and harness the sort of more grip that you got there, so yeah.
And one of my sayings is, you know, Brodie hasn't even warmed the seat up yet and he's already showing me up. You know, that's that youth and reaction time and stuff like that, and his natural ability that he's gained with regard to this relationship. I see it as I've given him an opportunity which I'm probably enjoying as much as he is. I love seeing him out there doing well in the machine that I've built.
Short term at the moment, obviously we'll finish the season off here. I think at the moment we're planning to go down to the series in Victoria, step back into the Formulas. We'll see how we go. Last year we had a few mishaps and whatnot, so we want to have a decent crack before, whether it's selling the car or whatever we're doing, laying off the Formula racing for a bit, we'll decide from there. But we'll go down there, hopefully have a good result, see how the sprint car experience correlates to back into formulas and whatnot. But yeah, and then come back to Brisbane, and that's about as far as we've got really. We'll be back in Brizzy, and I think we're hoping to maybe do a meeting or two with the development series down in Brisbane with this machine, but we'll see how we go. There's got a little bit of planning that has to go into it, so we'll decide in the coming few weeks, months, and we'll commit to it, and yeah, we'll go from there.
I know I own it, and I build it, and I'm a motor mechanic, and I'm proud of the way that I do things, but it's Brodie's car now, and I've been asked, you know, Lee, you're going to hop back in the car and that, and I have no immediate desire to do that, because it's his car. I want him to come and say, how's my car going? And you need him to feel a connection to the car. We adjust the setup to suit Brodie. We adjust the seating to suit Brodie, and the steering wheel position and everything else. And it's tailor-made to suit Brodie Davis. It's not tailor-made to suit me anymore.
Oh, yeah, obviously there's a lot of people, as I was saying, that go into it. SVS, of course, Penrite, AMAC motorcycles, local trading supplies, Davis Transport, Grandpa and Grandma have always been good help. North Safe Test and Tag, Mum, RDW Earth Moving, Royals Restoration. There's Doyle Media as well. Terry's been a massive influence with everything that goes into it all. And there's a lot of other individual efforts as age as well that have gone into it. People that have put their hands up saying that we want to help in any way we can, that really doesn't go unnoticed, and we can't express our thank you enough. And that's why we've got stickers all over the car saying, trying to express back that thank you. But there's a heap of people that go into this deal, and as I said, can't explain my thank you enough, and especially of course to Lee for giving the opportunity once again. So yeah.
We do look forward to seeing Brodie step it up, and I do see this as a stepping stone. And the only thing I suppose that stops us that might stop us is when it's time for Brodie to step it up, that we're not in a position to provide the motors and stuff that he needs. We're continually working on building our spare parts. We expect that he's going to have a wreck one day, and we need to be able to go out there again next week. So the only thing that's stopping this team from advancing with Brodie is our ability to provide what he needs to step it up, and that all just boils down to money. So I'm not even going to go there. Everybody knows that sprint car racing's an expensive sport. I've got a small business here that allows us to do a certain amount of it, and then we've got some generous supporters. But one day we're going to find somebody who sees the same as we all see in Brodie, and will support him.